Meets it.
Good morning. Today we're going to do a version of meditation. I think we've done a couple of times since I've been here, so 2020 maybe, something long ago. And we're going to explore with our senses. So I'll just lead you and just follow along. So let's start by just taking a few breaths and settling into a nice comfortable seat. Sit bones well placed. Bear your weight comfortably. Because we just arrived, we'll actually start with our vision, with our eyes open. So I'd like you to just calmly and gently look around the space and just notice things that you see with your sense of vision. Close our eyes so we can concentrate on the other senses. Let's move to our sense of smell. So inhaling and just sensing what is in the air. Friends candy, maybe other plants, maybe the person beside you. Shift our focus now to our sense of touch. Noticing what our skin is coming in contact with. Moving to the mouth and the sense of taste. You may need to swallow or move your tongue around a bit. Flavors you might taste. And then moving to the sense of hearing, noticing all the different sounds. To notice your sense of feelings, your emotions. And lastly, your thoughts. Noticing the kind of thoughts that you're having. Cleansing breath. Letting that go. And you can open your eyes once again. We're going to do the same exercise, slightly different perspective. So possibly you noticed that in your noticing in each of the senses, we have a tendency to label things. So when we're looking around, we might think, oh, that's a plant, that's a person, that's a flag, that's a fan. Or a taste, and that's sour, that's sweet, etc., etc. And we add a label to the flower scent, to all of that. And it's quite normal. But what we aspire to, I think, in Buddhism is to drop the labeling and to just experience as an observer that's not putting a condition on each thing. So let's see if we can do it again. We'll do it again, and just have a little practice with, we'll start by looking at things without naming them, without giving them any kind of explanation accepting their existence as you're perceiving. Let's try it again this cycle. Close our eyes. We move to the sense of smell. Moving now to the sense of touch. Noticing that we are experiencing a sensation. Just letting it be. Moving now to taste. Noticing if you're labeling with an aversion or an attraction. Hearing. Noticing your feelings. You just observe them without attaching. And then your thoughts. Noticing the existence of thoughts. Now let's just put it all together, take a cleansing breath, and simply sit. We are observing state of being. Noticing if you maybe have a feeling if this is something you would love to sit with longer, delve more deeply into, or if maybe it's something you feel uncomfortable with, or if you're somewhere in between. And then just allow that to be what it is. Stepping back from the attachment to even that. breaths in. Long exhale. Deep inhale. Long exhale. Deep inhale. Exhale, feeling yourself settled into your seat. Slowly open your eyes when you're ready.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
You missed a few steps. I missed a few steps.
Can you mind more about
Sorry. I missed a few steps. I'm about to ask if there was anybody new here, and I know there is. We've got some friends from France. Can you tell us your names and if you have any experience with Dharma teaching at all?
I am Lori.
I'm Lucas.
Lucas and Lori, welcome.
Thank you. And now we launch for the...
This is the first time.
Right, welcome.
Thank you.
So this is everyday Dharma. I think our main teacher for years, Ruthie, has taught from many different traditions. I don't think it really is focused on any one particular. It's more about the commonality of the various teachings. Myself, I come from a background more of secular mindfulness, but I've delved into through readings and so forth, different schools. The thing I'm going to talk about today is actually from Shambhala, which is a controversial school of Buddhism, from its main teacher who passed away under a cloud of controversy 30-something years ago. And it's no surprise it speaks to me. I'm a bit of a flawed human. I like my teacher somewhat flawed and somewhat human. But it was his talk on the blame. And so I'm going to touch on a few themes. I'm going to talk about the preciousness of this human life, which is a theme that I find runs through every school of Buddhism I've ever looked at. What I would consider while I'm deciding how to spend this precious human life, what should I be focused on, this teaching on the blame, and one weird trick for world peace. So my teacher was Bill Knight. He taught me a mindfulness-based stress reduction course in Canada in 2012. And his teacher is Matthew Flickstein. Matthew Flickstein is an ordained monk, or actually he's an ex-ordained monk, a filmmaker. He started a renowned meditation retreat in Massachusetts. And the film that he's well known for is called With One Voice. This film speaks to interviews mystics from a bit more than a dozen traditions. He speaks to Sufis and gurus of Hindu background, 3 different kinds of Catholic monks, Protestant, Jains, Sikhs. And each one of these have a contemplative arm. Each one of these faiths have where meditation, contemplation, prayer are foundational to the practice that they do. And he talks to them about what they want the world to know about their faith, about their practices, and the commonalities of those. And what comes up constantly is the oneness, the non-duality, the oneness of the source, of the power of all of these enlightened beings. And also the discord that is created by their followers. That it's not the enlightened beings that say, go kill those guys over there that don't believe what we do. It's their followers that bastardize the teaching and try to, well, I don't know the motives, but it tends to bubble up. No matter what faith there is, when factions happen, and people start to be against one another and forget about the unity that was the whole point of the teacher that they revere so much. And one of the fellows that sort of helped me formalize some of my practice was a Tibetan guy, and he turned me on to this Shambhala guy whose name is Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. I'm going to call him Trungpa while I talk about him here. He was one of the first Buddhists to come to the West and teach us in English in plain language. And I have ADD, and it gives me a lot of impatience. I'm not one that's going to sort through a bunch of esoteric cones and try and figure out what they're trying to teach me. I'm like, teach me something solid, please. I can't really figure out these experiential things you're trying to teach me. I'm like Bart Simpson. When Lisa says, what is the sound of one hand clapping? He says, listen up, Lisa. This is the sound. I'm that guy. I want solid answers from my teachers. And get solid answers. In English. He was a bit of a hipster. He wore Seville Row suits. He liked Cadillacs. He really liked wives that had blue eyes. He was an incredibly human, and yet at the same time was an enlightened talker. Many of you know I'm a recovered alcoholic. Many of you know that my history with that is relapse, recovery, relapse, recovery. To me, this reminds me that enlightenment isn't a permanent thing. We can get enlightened and unenlightened within this life. That it takes effort to remain enlightened, that our spiritual condition, that our enlightenment, or in my case my sobriety and recovery, is conditional on maintaining a spiritual condition. That the hindrances are always there waiting to bite us in the ass. In my case, doubt. A lot of times with meditation, it's like, is it worth it? Is all this work worth it? This is the form that my meditation and doubt takes. With my recovery, it's, we say in AA that our disease is out in the parking lot doing push-ups, waiting for us to have a weak moment that wants back in. And these two things feel similar to me. So the fact that Chogyam was, over here teaching profound Dharma, and over here doing very, very human things, I relate. So I relate. And I don't think it negates the teaching one bit. I think throughout history, many of our spiritual leaders have fallen to human foibles. And the Me Too movement was just not publicized in 14th century Catholicism or Judaism in the 1800s. There was crap going on through all of these traditions. And if we wrote off all the teachers due to their sins, I think we wouldn't have very many teachers. That being said, I want to read to you this piece. And because in the last few years Shambhala has actually really had a reckoning with a lot of its sins, the internet has scrubbed a lot of Trungpa's teachings. I started teaching this about 2 years ago, and I could find so much stuff. And as of now, it's very difficult to find his stuff online. I think that's it. And here's what he said about the blame. In plain English, which is another reason why he's one of my teachers. Even though somebody has made a terrible boo-boo and blamed it on you, you should take the blame yourself. You can actually say, okay, the blame is mine. Once you begin to do that, it's the highest and most powerful logic. The most powerful incantation you can make. You can absorb the poison. Then the rest of the situation becomes medicine. If nobody is willing to absorb the blame, it becomes a big international football. Everybody tries to pass it on to each other and nothing happens. As far as international politics is concerned, somebody is always trying to put the blame on somebody else. To pass that huge, overbuilt, gooey, dirty, smelly, gigantic football with all sorts of worms coming out of it. People say it's not mine, it's yours. So even from the point of view of political theory, if there is such a thing as politics and Buddhism, It is important for individuals to absorb unjustified blame and to work with that. It is very important and necessary. I'm going to read a little bit again. You can say, okay, the blame is mine. Once you begin to do that, it is the highest and most powerful logic, the most powerful incantation you can make. You can absorb the poison, and then the rest of the situation becomes medicine. Marriage counselors all over the world are saying, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Our egos do not enjoy this idea. We have resistances to this idea. Our self-cherishing selves say, but. But, I mean, what do our minds do with this? What if you're dealing with a real psychopath? Still works. Well, how is the guilty party ever going to learn? Still works. I can't think of a scenario where it doesn't dial down the temperature and help us move into solution from the problem. As soon as the finger pointing is over, everybody starts to look at themselves. I've seen in doing this, I internalized this 12 years ago. We use it all the time, which is why I feel comfortable talking about it, even though I'm not a very well-trained Buddhist. I'm a very well-trained guy who does this, takes the blame. Blame is a paper tiger. It's just an idea. It doesn't actually exist. It can't hurt you. If your shoulders are big, they're big enough to take the blame. The other part of it is if you truly know that you are not in the wrong, there's no weight. There's no weight to it at all. The weight of being wrong is in the shame. If you're not wrong and you take the blame, there's no shame to it. What is it? It's just an idea. So now we can move on. And there's this fable about the 6-month visa. We'll get it wrong if I try to go for it, but historically, almost fighting on parents' fights or grandparents' fights, and we can't even really remember what it's about. This is the gnarly stuff that's keeping the world a place of not peace. This is what gets the war started. In that movie I was talking about, Sadhguru yesterday said, if we could change the mind of 25 thought leaders, 25 faith leaders, 25 national leaders, we could end war. Just 25 people. So we could get to that. We could end war. Because it's right fighting. It's not wanting to be wrong that is causing a lot of these problems. So then what do we do about it? I know a lot of people in their personal relationships have taken the blame that wasn't theirs, and it was painful. But that was somebody else pushing the blame to you. It's a whole other ballgame when you volunteer to take. It's a whole other ballgame. I want you to make notes. Because we're going to talk about the self-cherishing part. One of the things that we find we're taught in Buddhism is that much of our suffering comes from self-cherishing, and that the antidote to self-cherishing is compassion, is giving to others. And what more compassionate thing can you do than let others off the hook? I had a friend come to me and she was fighting with her husband. I don't give advice. I don't give advice. I find it to be very, very bad policy. But she came to me and she has another friend here in the West. She married a surfer and moved over here onto this coast, and she had another girlfriend. So she's like, it's driving me crazy. He's holding a grudge. 3 days in, he's still being a baby about something. And she's like, what should I do? And I said, you're not going to like this. She's like, what? You won't like it, so I'm not even going to say it. What? What should I do? Take the blame. No way, he's being worse. No, it's not me. It's really him. Yeah, I know, but she did. She came back, she's like, wow, that shit's powerful. It really, really is. what happens is everybody takes stock of their own part in it. Once the big stinky football has been claimed and named by somebody, everybody else goes, hey, probably at least a little bit of that was my fault. And you start to see this reconciliation thing happen. And if you teach the technique to everybody in your world, it becomes very authentic. Even though some people say, are you deluding yourself? Not at all. Not at all. We know this again. Although it's always good to check yourself a couple of times to make sure that you're not just deluding yourselves about things that we've done as well. But it's the ego and the mind that rejects this flat out. The purpose of it is so valuable that it's worth it the other time. That's the one weird trick the world knows how. So let's assume we know that this rare life that we've been given is precious. And then figure out how we spend the time for it. What are we going to do with these signs? Well, we have to do all the life things. We have to find our food, we have to find our spouse, procreate, keep a shelter over our head. But after that, what's valuable? So, world peace, or house peace, or sangha peace are all valuable things to work towards. Village peace. And then the other thing is enlightenment. Trying to stay enlightenment. Trying to get enlightenment, trying to keep enlightenment. Because like I said, I think it's about the wolf you feed. In my case, I've fallen way down off of my spiritual journey, way back into the hungry ghost realms, back up here, down there, basically by not cherishing the spirituality that has given me this kind of health and happiness. So, the method of that is basically cushion time, sitting on the cushion, figuring out, sitting with oneself. And that's the other message of this movie, is that self-observance, self-knowledge is the key to overcoming our resistances, overcoming self-cherishing, and healing and leading a life of radical compassion. And I think that this thing falls into this categories. I don't know how long I've talked. I don't know if it's very long at all. Yeah, that's quite good. 29 minutes. I'd love to hear some feedback on that. Resistant. Did anyone feel the resistance when you're suggested that we take the blame even when they're not wrong?
There's a teaching that I like from Buddhism of a woman, a young girl in the community, and she gets pregnant, and the family is horrified that she's gotten pregnant. And she knows if she says who the father is, there's going to be a big problem. And so what she does is she blames a monk. And so the father goes, her father goes and bangs on the door and says, you've gotten my daughter pregnant, I don't know how you did this, you're going to be responsible for raising the child, this is your doing, you're going to look after this mess. And the monk says, okay. And so the child comes, they hand the child to him, he takes the child in and he raises the child, and years go by, and years go by, and years go by, and the mother breaks down because she realized she's made a mistake. And she goes to her father and says, I lied. I did this because I was afraid that this guy was going to get hurt, and it was a mess, so I said that the monk did it. And so the father goes back and knocks on the door and says to the monk, my daughter has spoken the truth and has come clean. It's time for her to take her child back. And the monk goes, okay. And so when you're talking about that ability not to take the pain or the accusations or processing the accusation or going to defensivism, but just to go, okay. Yes, and so that was going through my mind as you were talking, which is why it's not as much as I really like that story. It's the ability to rise above a situation, and as you said, if you have big shoulders, then you have shoulders to be able to carry that.
And to me, it speaks to radical equanimity,
Yeah.
right? Like really not getting attached to that's good, that's bad, this is wrong, that's that Rumi point, the poem, out beyond good and bad, right and wrong. Also, I have a little thing from Alcoholics Anonymous that I feel somewhat is related to this. The Buddha was set up for a rape and a murder, actually. The Buddha and his followers were set up for a rape and a murder. And he just said, we're not defending ourselves. The truth will out. And, I mean, there's also some teachings around this in Buddhism that to be falsely accused of something is one of the only ways to erase negative karma. That if you take the blame graciously for something that he didn't cause, karma points are ticking backwards, turning back the odometer, which, I mean, I'm not sure if there's actually a big tally sheet. A lot of things about Buddhism, I scratch my head and go, is this supposed to be literal, or, you know, but it makes sense to me in a way. It makes sense that we get away with a lot of crap we never get caught doing. So maybe it's okay to take the blame for something you didn't actually do. Right? I never got caught drunk driving. Man, oh man. Should have. So maybe in the karmic tally sheet, I got some blame to take anyway. This is a new phone and I really don't know how to use it, so get to my saying. It's driving me crazy. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there. That's what I was looking for. Okay. Oh, there's two, actually. This is, Richard Kipling, who was, like, revered when I was a kid. But by the time I grew up, he was a colonialist, arsehole, who, like, raped India. So, you know, another flawed teacher, which I like. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired of waiting, or being lied about and yet not deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. Woo!
What's the last thing you said?
Nor look too good nor talk too wise. Yeah. Kipling. Amazing. There's something in there about, you know, big shoulders. We are so blessed with this precious human life, but also we got Dharma. We got each other. There's only a tiny fraction of people in the West that were able to access Dharma. Somebody brought this life seed to you, bring you to the shelter today. That, like, the numbers are tiny. Of the 8 billion walking on this earth, there's people that were born into Buddhism, and kind of like we were born into probably Judaism or Christianity. We don't take it that seriously. It's just the background noise of our life. And I'm sure a lot of those countries like Thailand, they're doing Buddhist things, but they're not doing what we do. They're not really they're lay people. Not everybody's sitting in the Shema, actually trying to figure things out. So just the miracle of how few of us there are that have this to give us a chance to make this life worth something, to do the good work, to possibly have a rebirth where we do more, or become enlightened for others. These are like some concepts that are so rare. It boggles the mind how rare it is. This is from Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's a piece called The Promises. And it talks about our spirituality that we've been given and how things will happen. I'm just going to read it. We will understand the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. fear of people, and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that the higher power is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We've entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask at once to have them removed. We discuss them with someone immediately and we make our amends quickly. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. So, I'd love to know if anyone has any thoughts, or I feel like it's a controversial ask. I feel like we've all been in situations where we knew we weren't wrong, and to just volunteer to take the blame is a controversial ask. Does it bring up anything for anybody?
It seems. I was going to say, it seems like it could lead to low self-esteem, and maybe that's an ego thing or not. But it's sort of like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, I made that mistake too. Particularly, maybe you're with a partner that is a blamer. The opposite of that. It seems like just sort of, yep, that's my fault. Yeah, that's my fault. You know, it seems like someone with low self-esteem would just sort of absorb those hits and maybe be spiraling into depression or something like that. It just sort of stands out. And sort of where kind of this spiritual talk and sort of like psychotherapy seem to, you know, rub up against each other a little bit, because it seems like in psychotherapy you're taught to stand up for yourself and lay a boundary down for certain behavior that you won't tolerate or something like that. And it kind of just generally sits with me in that other direction. I'm not saying that's what it is, but
I absolutely hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. I do know when there's a dynamic between two parties where one is always blaming, one is always taking the blame. Taking the blame can often take the wind out of the blame pusher.
Mm-hmm.
Take the fun away for them as well. And at that point, there's no point keeping pushing the blame onto the person who's taking the blame, and that activity ceases. Because it's like punching water. Oh, they took the blame. I can keep pointing the finger because they already took the blame. So it can sometimes make the argument fall away.
And you said something earlier that if you believe it's not really your fault, kind of thing. Like you're getting your strength. You're not going, oh yeah, I'm a terrible person. It's my fault too, right? That sort of energy. If you're just kind of like, yeah, I'm just gonna take the blame. You know, I know it's not my fault,
It's like
right?
not instigating a fight.
Right.
Not saying, no, I'm not to blame. It's like, okay.
Right. Like, yeah, taking the pressure valve out of the room.
I think a lot of it's just letting go. Maybe not even just taking the blame, but just letting go of the idea of everything. And I know lots of times we'll fight about stupid stuff, and Rob's really easy going to trust me. Anyway, I just think, okay, just drop it, and I'm totally cool with just dropping it. Not like you have to, what you resist will persist. It's not about that. It's about just letting go. So I think taking the blame is a little bit like letting go. Just letting go. Not necessarily thinking, well, I really did do it. It's really my fault. I don't know that I could actually do that when I really didn't do it. But I think I could, what I do is I just let it go.
I also note in his teaching, and it's a much longer teaching, and I've had the benefit of reading it all, he never ever says it's his fault. He says he's taking the blame again. Which is hair-splitting, yes, but also naming the blame as an idea, a concept that cannot hurt you, without saying it's my fault. I will take just, I understand. I've had people
Yeah.
tell me, you know, my psychopathic husband is always pushing the blame onto me. This would not be good for me. I've only just learned to stand up for myself. But I think of Bruce Lee telling us to be like water. There's nothing to punch when we're like water. Go with the flow. So that psychopathic husband constantly, you. Oh, she really had to say it. I take the blame. He's out of ammo. He's just done. Where's he going to keep youing? It's gone. I mean,
It put me think about like recognizing that a person is going through something. A person has something underneath why they're blaming. That's the challenge for them. And whatever it is, whether they're feeling disrespected or maybe they don't respect themselves, and so then that's amplifying and these sorts of things. So perhaps taking the blame is also just thinking, I see they're having trouble processing something, and so it's being projected outward. And so I have compassion for that human state so much.
so much. Part of the medicine.
I just wanted to share that what I'm hearing is you can throw the blame to me,
Right.
but I don't have to eat it. I don't have to digest it. I don't have to hold on to it. I don't have to claim it because it's not mine. But if I allow that energy to flow, then fresh energy has ability to come. But if I'm constantly pushing back, then it's just building and getting more and more tense. So it's like it's not mine. I cannot hold on to it. I must let it go.
Absolutely. Think of a Reiki practitioner who can put hands on people, but they're not taking it in themselves. It's flowing right through them. I can take your pain, but it's going through. And if I take it on, I won't be a Reiki practitioner for very long. Absolutely.
Another thing that I noticed in one of your readings was to do take stock of yourself. Like there might be some validity to what someone is saying, and so instead of just saying, "Well, no blame is accurate," it's like, okay, maybe there is part of that I need to be honest with myself about, and I don't want to be because I want to be feeling like I'm perfect or whatever. But to be able to be honest with yourself without hurting yourself, so that you can see, okay, part of that is accurate, part of it's a build up.
I just wanted to add, and you spoke half of my speech already. We talking when two people or more people, blame each other, relationships, and my thought was, just by ourselves, we start to look at us and think, oh my goodness, what did I do? And then we blame ourselves, or it's my fault. We talk to ourselves. But there comes this sentence to my mind that somebody said, when you take your own life like a pass, and you feel responsible for what you do each second, each minute, and in this minute, when you made this decision, what later turns out maybe was not so good, but in this moment you were aware, and you did it, and there is no, oh my God, I did it 5 minutes later, because 5 minutes later our mind, our life, our everything is on a completely different timeline already. So when we always look back, this is bad, because the only thing is that we don't see it like negative, even if this is maybe for other people to see. But in this moment, this is our lesson, this is our life, it's our journey. What I learned here is beautiful, what is our past. And the past is never just swept clean, like all tiles. It's stirred and travels, and we do, and we go there. And we cannot say, oh, why did I do this step? Why I didn't look over there where we are no gravel? This is not life. Sometimes we hurt ourselves and we learn from it. But then what I notice in people, that people always say, oh, I cannot be this because my childhood and my this and my parents, and And I'm thinking, yeah, but now your parents are already, the teaching of your parents is so far in this timeline. You had time to adjust a little bit and learn new things. And don't blame them. Take the opportunity to make it better. And there are little things in our life, you know, when we say, oh, when I grow up, I don't do it what my parents did. But most of us, we follow because it's so engraved in our being. And it takes a lot of strength. These little things. I don't have breakfast every Sunday like 8 o'clock, like a good German, you know, get up and then I go and wipe the windows in my house by 10. This is why I had to leave. I could not live this life. It was like suffocating me. And now I'm, you know, I never clean my windows and I eat breakfast by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is life. So we learn and don't blame others. We always can switch and shift. And I think when we don't do it to ourselves, then we have a hard time to apply this to somebody else. Your story with the pregnancy, I go home today and will think about it. This is an amazing story. And this is the, I mean, this story is so powerful because being pregnant is not just for us women. The symbol is everything. I'm pregnant, you know, what I take in. And I don't want it anymore, so what I do now, I delete it to somebody else. Yeah, this was my little thought about it.
I want to add, you know, when you first started speaking about it, because this is another one of those times where we latch on to a particular word, and that has many different meanings for different people. And if you, so as you were speaking about it, I said to myself, the concept she's expressing is there's a part in it for me. It's an interpersonal relationship situation. So eventually you said that. You came around, that was part of you in using an alternative way to express it. What is my part in it? And as everyone is already identifying, as soon as you can sort of say, well, to the other person, what I hear you saying is, and this is the impact on you, because blame can be looked at that way, that diffuses them, and that's what many people just now expressed in the way that they said that. There's a diffusing of that energy from the other person. And there always is a part in ourselves in that, if it's a interpersonal, you know, situation between people. So I think when you hear that, if you just say, well, then what is my part in it, and the diffusing factor of it, you get to a better place with that other person. And sometimes you do say, okay, because you can see the energy from which they're coming from. I'll accept that, and I'll process that, and I'll come back to you with whatever, okay? But so if blame, you know, because you were saying, does that react for people? It might, in the way that Bill mentioned too. You know, there's situations where you are not to blame, but can you say it in a way to create understanding, empathy for the other person, and then what is my part in this to help? Because sometimes the helping part is enough to shift that dynamic that it is all diffused. So you're taking blame, but are you really taking blame? Because for me, the word had to be pushed out of the way to express more the sentiment. But that's just me.
Also, there's the idea of why people blame. And, you know, being hairdresser, standing behind a chair for 40 years, you had a lot. And it always seemed, I always thought to myself that people found something to blame and everything was going to move forward. It had, if there was a crisis or something that happened, if they could finally find that thing to blame or the person to blame, they could then move forward.
Concur. It's a very strong need in us to lay the blame somewhere before we can get to solution. And this is just a weird trick of getting around it. on my cushion, chopping wood, carrying water. You need me to take the blame? I'm over here. I can help. Appreciate everybody coming out. And yeah, I think Mark is going to take us up for the rest of the.
Well done. Nice talk.
Yeah, very, very great talk, Tana.
So from now on, everything's pedestal.
I'm all right with that. Working them up.
So, in closing, everybody knows, and because you're new, we do two parts. The first part is a meta, and meta is just a graciousness. It's an opportunity to appreciate community in many different forms. And so we'll repeat the same thing over and just connect with you in the way that we feel is most appropriate for you. The second part is we'll close with this prayer, which she got from somebody else. So for now, again, appreciating Tana and her talk and how she shared, and just letting your shoulders relax. One of the things about metta is it's offered as a graciousness. And so the best way to offer a graciousness is to be gracious. Gracious unto self and to everyone else. And we'll be doing this in 5 parts, as everybody knows. Aware of your breath. And as Lisa pointed out earlier, the sensations that are occurring all around you. Without giving it a name, a title, just aware. And the first person we're going to offer metta to is the first person, I. This is for you. Imagine you in front of you. And we're going to say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live in ease and grace and a state of equanimity. May you be happy. The next person we're going to offer this to in our community is somebody that you love. See that person in front of you. Feel them in front of you. And again, we repeat, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live in ease and grace and a state of equanimity. May you be happy. In our community, there are people that come in and out who may not know their names. And if there's somebody who comes to mind right now, somebody that you feel a kinship to, see that person, feel that person. And again, we'll repeat, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live in ease and grace and a state of equanimity. May you be happy. Because there's people in our community that we may not see eye to eye with, if there's somebody that you are exploring something different with, you have to maybe take the blame for something, as it were. And to this person, we repeat again, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live in ease and grace and a state of equanimity. May you be happy. Because our community is much larger than we could ever imagine. It's not just our Sangha here, our community of Ohichal or Costa Rica. It is an entire world full of sentient beings in an entire universe. And to all life, we say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May we live in ease and grace in a state of equanimity. And may you be happy. Come back to the room, back to the pavilion. And if you don't know the words, as you know, they're up there, I will say it, and you can just echo it back. Go in peace.
Go in peace.
Go making peace.
Go making peace.
Living gently.
Living gently.
Loving mightily.
Loving mightily.
And bowing to the mysteries.
And bowing to the mystery.